What's up out there? In this video, we are going to talk about the Township skill, and this is a video I've really never felt like making. I didn't ever think it was all that important because I feel this skill is fairly straightforward, but I do see that a lot of people struggle with it, and I think my viewpoint is basically because I was playing this when they first introduced Township, when it was a super confusing mess, and then they totally redid the skill from scratch and made it what it is today, which is far more approachable than it was before. So we're going to dive into Township. We're going to take a quick look at it, and we're going to go for this is for the base game only. We're not going to talk about the expansion at all, the Abyssal expansion, which adds some things and changes the way it works. I don't want to get into that right now. This is for the base game only, since this is mainly geared towards the beginner player, and you're not going to see that expansion until you've completed the game. So the first thing you will be greeted with is this screen right here. And I do recommend getting into Township as soon as it is feasible. If you're starting standard or hardcore or relic mode or whatever, you want to get in here, pick a deity, and confirm and continue as quickly as possible. For adventure mode, you have to buy a skill to unlock it. I don't necessarily think you want to start with Township, although it's not a bad idea. But you definitely want to prioritize getting Township in a little bit sooner. And the reason is, once you've selected a deity and gone into the game, you're going to start generating XP on Township, for one. And for two, you're going to unlock the ability to get Township tasks. You do not get Township tasks until you unlock that, until you start the skill. So it is very much in your interest to get this going as soon as possible, just so that you're generating XP and working on those Township tasks. They take a while, and the faster you get working on them, the more you're going to unlock stuff in Township itself. So the Township tasks unlock things for you in Township, and the ability to purchase things up here in Township here. Like once you get 20 Township tasks done, you'll be able to get the Woodcutter's hat or any of these hats. They come at 20 Township tasks and level 10 Township. Then you get more tasks like 40, 60, and 80 for the rest of the suit. And then the upgrade coin is at 95 Township tasks. Now you've got different buildings you can build, like the Malk's Cats or the Cool Rocks buildings or the Pratt's hats. Those unlock other items down here like pets and hats and stuff like that. Those are all good benefits to get, but a lot of these take buildings in Township or something. So there is, you either need Township tasks, Township level, or buildings to be built. So there's a good reason to get Township going early and get that ball rolling, because it works in the background. So you can just kind of let it chug on its own and then address it here and there. You don't necessarily have to work this like an active skill, but it is to your benefit to get this sooner rather than later. So we are only going to cover the base game. We're not going to talk about the expansion. And let's see. As an overall, just to be blunt and clear on this, the way I approach Township is I just pick buildings. I don't have like a set, I'm going to build these buildings here and build these here and do this and that. I don't have it all spreadsheeted out to where it's the most optimal thing. I just build buildings. You're not going to brick this town at all. Like you used to be able to in the original version of Township. You could brick the town and just completely have to start over. That is not possible anymore. You may take a big hit to Township. You may lose population here and there. You may have to redo some things, but you never have to start over, and your progress will always continue forward. Like winter is a big deal. It's going to basically halve your population, and I don't think there's much you can do about it until everything gets rolling. So basically, Township is like a very slow-moving snowball. It takes a while, but once it snowballs together, it gets moving, and you get a lot of steam behind it, and then you start generating a lot of money. So it is very slow to start, and you can have some setbacks, but you will never have to restart. So think of this as a balancing act through all the different buildings and everything. That's pretty much how I approach it. Is I have a little priority list that I go through. It's not really a set, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I just things that I think about. So that's what we're going to cover here. The first choice you have to make is which deity to worship. Now you can choose none. You get no modifiers for it. Which deity is the best? I don't know. I just pick one and go. I think I usually take Eris just because it's the first one I see. You can beat the base game and switch over to Bane or the Herald, or once you beat, well, the Herald's once you beat the Herald expansion, and Zon is once you beat the Abyss expansion. You can certainly change to a different deity if you so choose. However, in doing that, it's going to cost you 50 million gold to change the deity, and you can change any of these other ones too. If you change, it's going to cost 50 million gold. It's also going to destroy all your worship buildings like chapels or whatever. And I think you take a resource hit, a resource production hit. So it is a big deal to change your deity. So you don't want to just swap these out however you see fit. I believe you do want to take one. I don't believe none is ever a good option because you're going to get some benefits out of these. There's probably, think of these as like a mastery. You've got, I think it's 2,000 worship buildings you can build. And this is a percentage of those worship buildings. So once you've got 5% of them built, you'll unlock this tier at 25, 50, 85. So it's like mastery, but you're building buildings instead. It's just a different approach to mastery. And each one of these gods is going to give you a different bonus to different biomes. So you're going to either get more clothing or more coal or something, whatever. I don't really approach this very strategically, let's say that. I just pick a deity and go. So we'll just take Eris and confirm and continue. So at this screen, this may look very busy, but we're going to take all the abyssal stuff out so that basically this entire bottom row, we're going to ignore soul storage and fortification. The rest of this, you've got, what would you call these? This row I would call mostly resources. This has moved around a little bit because they've added the abyssal stuff, but basically row 2 and the first one of row 3 are all resources. Tax rate's a little different. It is actually generated with the town hall. You're not going to get the town hall unlocked until you get township level 80 and 40,000 population. So it's a little bit more of a mid-game thing. Once you can start taxing your citizens and build that up, you're going to start bringing in gold. Up until that point, and there's a tip over point, but even once you get taxes coming out, you're still going to not be making much money as much as you're spending in. But this is kind of a gold sink up to a point, and then it's going to start making you money. And once you get your taxes rolling, get the town halls rolling, and once you get a trading post rolling, you'll be able to pull stuff out, not just taxes, but you'll be able to pull items out and sell those if you want. So when you first get into this, you're going to see all these different buttons up here. Pretty much what you're looking for is the symbol. So population is got a little house. So if you need to increase your population, just go look for the little house down here. If you want more, the little steak pieces of meat there, just look for the little pieces of meat. There are various buildings that do generate food. So for instance, in the grasslands, you can get farmlands. In the water area, you can get fisherman's docks. There's also, not gardens. There are some buildings that don't show up until you've leveled up a little bit, and I don't remember what orchards. They may not be in the grasslands, but orchards generate food as well. What you'll find, though, is that farmlands are fairly cheap, and orchards cost a little bit more. They may generate a little bit more food, but they cost more to build. And the same thing with, like, happiness. So if we scroll over to here, or slide over to here, happiness will increase your population. Education will increase your resource production. Your health, once we reach level 15, your township is going to start taking damage. Now, I have a mod called, what is this? Auto Township. What this thing does is it just repairs my town. So we're not going to have to deal with that. I just don't care about dealing with it. This auto fixes everything for me. If you were manually healing it, you could do like this repair all, which is going to cost you herbs and potions. That's what these little buttons down here are. So if you're not, you cannot necessarily press the repair all button because you may not have enough resources. So you may have to go into each biome and repair what you can. Like I said, I just do the auto repair and let it go with that. But I probably should cover how to repair this, but I don't think it's that big a deal. You just press the button that fixes you look here, if you're down 15% health, you would use, if you had enough herbs, you would use that. If you had enough potions, you would use that. Potions cost a little bit more, but you would just fix the amount of damage that you need to. So the longer your township runs without you paying attention to it, the more damage you'll have to repair. If you stay up on it, it'll just stay repaired. Worship, we looked at this, or we talked about this when we picked the deity. The more buildings you get, the more buildings you build, the more percent this will fill in and unlock some of these production values that you're going to get. I don't really pay attention to it. I could care less. I just build buildings. So then you move on to the bottom, the lines down here. These are resources, and to generate those, you need to build buildings. And I mean, honestly, to generate any of this, you need to build buildings, because happiness is generated by gardens and taverns. Gardens are cheaper than taverns are. And then you've got storage, which is these storehouses. Now, there's different tiers to each one of these. Like this has got 7 tiers. This one's got 4. As you build buildings, they will go between the tiers automatically. You don't have to like level it up or anything. It's just as you build buildings, it will switch over. And each one adds more. They'll change names. So I think basic shelters go to like a house or something like that. And then they start going 10 people instead of just 5 per house. So as these go up through the tiers, they will level up and you'll get more. And that's kind of the interface. You've got these different biomes you can choose. At one point, you used to be able to mouse over, this was in the old system, you used to be able to mouse over a building and the biomes would blink as to where the other buildings that were similar to that. Like if I wanted to build tailors, I could just mouse over this and the other biome cards would blink. It doesn't do that anymore, so it's kind of difficult to figure out where you need to build. But anytime you have resources where something can be, anytime you have the ability, you have enough resources to build a building, you're going to find this little hammer. So I've got a bunch of hammers on here. I can build a bunch of buildings. So let's talk about build priority. My thinking is that I want to build housing first because housing generates XP. The more population you have, the more XP you're going to get. And to fuel the housing, you need food. So food would be the next priority. And then after that is going to be storehouses. I always keep an eye on this and make sure I don't get this full. As soon as your storage gets full, this is shared storage amongst all your resources. So if you have 49,999 food, you will not generate any of these other resources but one. You will generate one wood log and that's it. And then all the rest of these are cut off. So as soon as your storage is full, you're not generating anything more. And it doesn't matter how much resource generation you have. If you don't have a place to store it, you're not going to create it. So if you're waiting for something to be done, but your storage is continuously full, or you've got it full of something like food and there's not enough room for any other resources to fit, you need to tone that food down. Now, in order to tone that down, you'd slide over here to the Manage Storage tab. You can tell it to do less percent. Again, this is shared. So if you've got 100%, that means you can fill everything all the way. I have tried tinkering around with these and changing them down. I really don't like doing that. And it really only is necessary early on, unless you're trying to get a specific resource. Then there's some min-maxing you can do with like the trader and stuff like that. Like late game, you could probably change this to where you're getting more of a specific resource because you want to pull that out. There's some upgrade items that would be good for that. I really just don't mess with it. Basically, what I do is come down here to this yeet resources if I absolutely need to. If I am just stuck with too much food and I don't have a way of building a building to take care of that, to use that down, then I will just yeet out some of it. Otherwise, I try to stay ahead of it and build as many storehouses as possible so that I'm always storing stuff. And the more you store, the more you're able to build. That's my philosophy anyway. So I do housing for population and XP, food to make sure that my housing is going up, and then I try to stay ahead with the storage portion of it. Then I prioritize resource production. So basically what you're going to do, or what I usually do, is I'll build a bunch of houses, build some food for it, keep an eye on my storage, and then add storage when I can. And sometimes I'll go bananas and just add a whole bunch of storage just so I don't have to think about it for a while. And another thing on storage, before we get off that topic, is overnight, because if you let it go for many hours, it can fill up. And then, like I said, you're not generating anything. So you may wake up in the morning, you're full of food, but you can't build anything because you're full of food. So it's kind of a balancing act at that point. So that's how I prioritize things. Stuff like chapels, libraries, town halls, trading posts, cemeteries, Pratt's hats, Malk's cats, statues of Eris, stuff like that, schools. I probably should prioritize gardens and taverns. I should probably prioritize like this whole chunk through here a lot more than I do. But basically, I'll focus on all the production stuff first. You know, once I get my population growing and my food and storage settled out, I start really focusing on production and trying to build on that. However, once you get into the seasons, there's seasonal modifiers. Once you get to winter, you're going to take a big hit to happiness and education. And I've actually seen that last until summer. And I don't know if it's bugged or if I just did something wrong, but you're supposed to get 50% education and happiness back in spring. And I've seen that not happen. So I don't know. Mileage may vary on that. I've like seen this tank to just whatever I had built in the gardens. I don't know why it does that. I don't really care, but it can, and it does happen, and it does hurt. It hits a lot. So winter will really kill your production down, and you can, like it says you need a population of 2,500. You can be level 35, unlock 2,500 population, and then hit winter and lose these biomes. So you can actually lose those biomes back out, even though you had them unlocked. You've got the level, you had the population. They're not permanent. As soon as you drop down in population, you lose those buildings. So try to be careful on that. And you need to work on gardens and taverns to really counteract that, and actually schools and stuff like that. I'm sure there's a big balancing act of, you know, too much resources, not enough of the other stuff, but it takes resources to build all these, and these take a while to actually catch up. Like it's going to take a lot of gardens and taverns to really counteract a 50% loss. These only give you like 0.05 or something, like, or 0.5. They don't give you a lot. So you have to build a lot of these, and they take a lot of resources, which means resource generation and storage and population and food. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of goes from there. Let's see here. You can brute force your population once you get these leveled up far enough, and you may take a big hit to winter and it drops your population. But as you can build these buildings, and like this biome here, the grasslands, you don't ever lose. And once you've leveled it up far enough, you're going to be able to keep building houses in here as long as you've got the resources coming in. So you may take a big hit, lose some population and lose some of these biomes, but you can still build these and keep these chugging. Let's see, we talked about storage. Like I said, I try to use my resources for building as much as possible. I try to not yeet things off because you're just losing and wasting stuff into the digital ether, but sometimes you can't, that's all you're stuck. That's all you can do. And then also get your township tasks completed as quickly as feasible, because once you do get the trader unlocked, there are inside the trader, I'm not going to be able to show that here, but you will have points where the trader is going to say you need to have completed a certain number of township tasks and get a skill leveled up to a certain point before it unlocks you the ability to trade that item out. So even though you do get the trader unlocked, maybe you build the trading post, there's going to be a number of items you can get out of trading. So for instance, you may not be able to get coal out until you work on mining and get some township tasks. I don't remember what settings there are, but then your coal starts building up and you have to start yeeting it off because it's the only resource you can't trade out. So there will be times where you just can't trade something out, and that can kind of get difficult. The trader, I would definitely recommend getting as quickly as you're comfortable with. It is very expensive to build. It costs thousands of many of these resources. The one that always is my pain point is potions. So I should probably prioritize potions a little bit sooner than I do, but you may have to just let it build materials. There will become a time where you might want to get the trader built. You don't want to build anything else because you're trying to let those resources build up. So the only thing you're building is storehouses, and then letting it idle for a day or so. It may take hours or a day or two to build up enough resources to build that trading post, but you've got that as a goal. So maybe you stop doing everything else and just focus on that. Or maybe you're like, okay, maybe I can slip in a few buildings because they're super cheap and they're not eating into something like a few logs and some food is not a big deal. So you might be able to slip some things in that don't use, you're getting a lot of stone or something like that. So you can build buildings that use a lot of stone because you're getting enough of it coming in. You don't have to worry about it impacting the other stuff, but you may not build something that uses a lot of potions because that drops the amount of potions you need. And it's already hard enough to get enough to build the trading post. So it's like a big trade-off. But once you get it, you don't have to, removes the need to just delete stuff with yeeting, and it's a great resource to have. So I think we've gone probably as far as I want to go with this video. I am going to do a little bit of a demonstration here on what I would start off with for me personally. I would start with, say, 5 woodcutters camps, maybe 5 carpenters workshops, and then go in here and do 5 miners pits. You'll notice that you started off with a miners pit, a woodcutters camp, a basic shelter, and 1 farmland. That is so that you do not brick your town, because as long as you've got wood or logs coming in and miners pits generate stone, ore, and coal, as long as you've got all that stuff coming in, you'll be able to build buildings. It'll be a slow trickle, but you'll be able to build buildings. So what I would prioritize early on is resource generation, maybe add a couple of storehouses in there so I don't have to worry about that. You know, it takes a while to generate material resources, but once you do, the storehouse fills up quickly. You want to try and look at this every hour or two, something like that. Don't want to go 8 hours every time you look at it. You can, certainly can, but I try to look at this about once every hour or 2 or 3, something like that, and then use whatever resources have built up. Once I've got, say, the miners pit, a few miners pits built, and some woodcutters camps, there's probably a better, maybe we could do 10 of these. I'm not sure what breakdown works best, but it doesn't hurt to generate quite a few of these and then get as many basic shelters as you can. The basic shelters are going to generate XP. Now I've got a time skip mod here so we can skip forward an hour. And then at this point, I'm probably going to build more shelters just to keep those rolling in. I want to build as much population as possible. We'll skip another hour into here, and then I'm going to keep going with the town housing. I have plenty of food. I don't need to add food. So let's give it another hour, and then I'll keep chugging along with this. As long as you've got positive green numbers in here, you're good. And in the meantime, I'm allowing this other stuff to build up in the background. So we're leveling up Township, and we're shooting for level 15 because that's going to unlock some things down here. That's also going to unlock, once we build up enough of these, it's going to unlock the next tier of housing. So we'll give it another hour, and we'll do some more housing. I'm still not eating into my food terribly much, so I'm going to keep going with that. You could certainly build other resources at this point, but I'm just ticking it along, giving an hour. You could let this go for 2 hours. Sure, it's possible. I don't necessarily like to get too far in between because things can get out of hand. If you run out of food, you can tank your population. You want to try to keep up on that. But like I said, once you hit winter, it's going to tank a lot. So I've maxed out my housing. I cannot do any more. And I built whatever I had left over into farmland. And there is no other housing option, so until we hit level 15, but we're just about there. So give it another hour. Now we've unlocked the arid plains, which gives more basic shelters. So at this point, you're going to want to start getting tailors because we need clothing. So we'll want to do like a couple of hunters cabins, get these rolling off, and that's going to generate leather, which is going to let us build a tailor so that we could convert that leather into clothing. But we've also unlocked the housing tier, or the next tier here, which means we need logs. So at this point, I would probably give it another hour, and I would switch over and start doing woodcutters camps. Now, like I said, I'm trying to focus on housing. Now, you'll notice I pivoted over into resource generation. When I say focus on housing, food, storage, it's not like you do that and that and that. You kind of just float around between them. That's my philosophy, is I'm going to float around between these. So to focus on housing, I need to focus on resource creation, which is going to be woodcutters camps. And for this, I need to create clothing, which means getting leather and converting that into clothing. So we're going to need hunters cabins and then tailors. So in a roundabout way, I'm taking my resource generation to focus on the housing portion of it, if that makes sense. So let's give this an 8-hour blast. Like I went to bed and came back the next day. So we've got a big chunk of logs. I still can't do a tailor. So I probably want to give, we'll do 5, we'll make this a total of 5 hunters cabins, and then I'll drop the rest into housing. Now, you'll notice I ran out of food. So at this point, I'm going to start working on food production. And yeah, I know there's a 5. Let me go switch that, go back to 1 here. We can do a few more food. So once I've got plenty of food, that means I don't have to worry about it the next time this comes around. I had plenty of wood, I just didn't have enough food. So we could do a storehouse. We could do like a school or something. You'll see the trading post cost is now 5,000 planks, 7,500 stone, 5,000 ore, or 5,000 bars, 2,000 herbs, and 2,000 potions. I still don't have any herbs or potions, so I would probably come down here to the swamp, start making some gathering huts. We'll do 5 of those. Let's see if we can do one of those. And then we'll give it another hour. And that cycle continues. I'd probably focus a little bit more on gatherers' huts, maybe. We could do food. At some point, you want to just pull back on food creation. You could spend the resources you've got to buy plantations at this point, but you may want to not do that because that will just fill up your storage pool and not spend anything. So like if I give this another hour, then we can look at what next building. So like I want to really focus on potions now because I have 0 potions. You know, like I've got 1,000 of some of the rest of this stuff, but I have 0 potions and a little bit of herbs. So I would probably want to come in here and start focusing on gatherers' huts. We've ran out of logs, so maybe I want to build some more woodcutters camps. Let's see, maybe we do a bunch more woodcutters camps because that's where I'm feeling my pain point. So this has been a fairly long video. I want to kind of cut things off at this point, but that's how I treat Township. That's how I approach it. And one last thing on tasks, I guess I should have probably started this video out with it. The tasks that are in the easy, normal, hard, very hard, all of these down here give you stuff. The casual tasks you can turn in for things for your Township. So if I had any of these materials, like if I had shrimp, I could turn that in for some Township XP and some food for my Township. So say I want to build some things. This is another little strategy you can use for building buildings. Let's say I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I'm out of resources. Maybe I could switch over here and look at what casual tasks I have. Ooh, I need planks. I could go get planks if I just go build some arrow shafts. There will be some weird things in here, like you generate different bars, or maybe you got to kill a monster with a weird weapon combination that you wouldn't normally use. But they can give you XP and items for your town. These generate, I think it's every 5 hours, and you only get 5. You can have up to a maximum of 5, and then a new one comes along every 5 hours. So they can be fairly useful. And there have been times where I've been building my town along and I've been like, man, I'm out of resources. I just need a little bit more to get to the next bit. Oh, I've got a Township task I could go do. Not necessarily one that I have to turn in, but one that I could go quickly do and generate a little bit of XP and items for my town. So that's how I approach Township. There's nothing scientific to it. It's basically me just sitting down, clicking buttons, and managing the balancing how much resources I have, trying to keep that as even as possible. I don't necessarily try to keep, 2,000 into each category. What I try to do is to keep enough in each category that I can keep creating things, if that makes sense. Like I totally neglected the bars, so I should have gone in here and created a blacksmith smithy. On the next cycle, I would probably want to go ahead and do that because the sooner you get this stuff going, the better it is. Same thing with like potions. You want to keep that stuff rolling as much as possible. We can get a tailor now. And let's see, where's the potion place at? Herbalist. So we're going to need some more herb lore. So I'd probably want to go and make sure and keep pushing on the gatherer's huts, because the next cycle, the next time I check on this, I can look at this and say, oop, there's an herbalist. Now I've got some generation in all of the different stuff that I can generate in. You'll notice that essence, the rune essence, takes a while. That's because that is the magic emporiums, and those are, I don't remember what biome they're in, but those take like level 80 or something like that, or 60 or something along those lines. They take a while. In fact, they may be in these other biomes we haven't unlocked yet because we don't have enough level. So if I were to give that an 8-hour chunk, is that going to roll over? Nope. One more chunk. Can we do that? And now we have level 35. So we've got, well, I can't even look at it because I don't have the population. But once you hit level 35, you unlock all the biomes. And like I said, you can get your population and lose it and lose these biomes. So you may have a lot of stuff going. You may build a lot of buildings in here, lose your population once winter hits, and then now you have to start over. So anyway, hopefully this has been helpful. And that is going to do it for this video. And if you have any comments on, maybe a better process on how Township should run, drop something in the comments. If nothing else, I could learn something. But like I said, I just kind of approach this and build buildings as I see fit. I don't really follow a spreadsheet or a particular path or a particular deity or whatever. I just kind of click and go and then build it as in the background. It is a very useful skill. There's a lot of money to be made off of it, and you could probably do things a lot quicker than I do, but that's how I approach it. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.